Welcome to A Gallen of Questions. My name is Pat Gallen, and today's guest, former Phillies All-Star, spent 6 seasons with the Phillies. I used to cover him back in the day. He's now using that talent as a hitting coach in our area. Domonic Brown is here. Dom, it's so good to catch up with you, dude.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
So what's going on now? You're staying busy, right?
I'm staying pretty busy, man. Got the kids, the travel teams, working at Diamond Baseball Academy. And then I have the Philly scout teams on a national level in the summer for like 5 or 6 tournaments.
And then you have 4 kids now,
It's
were telling
It's
me?
4 of them, man.
So not only do you have all these kids you're teaching, you got to teach these kids too?
Hey, and I'm teaching these kids. I'm trying my best anyway. We all fall short, but I'm using my life challenges and all the stuff that I battled with in the big leagues, from being one of the best players, being one of the worst, and using my testimony for these kids to get better on a daily basis.
That's awesome. So coaching is what you're into now. When did you know that this would be the path you would take?
We just kind of talked about it briefly.
That was the warm-up.
I was in my last AAA year, Glen Allen Hill. We had a couple camps in Albuquerque.
Okay.
And I latched on to a couple kids early. And then got to Mexico, man, started doing the lessons. I was actually in Laredo, Texas, going back and forth across the border. That was a real grind.
Wow, all right.
But at the same time, that's where it started. Max Hitman was at St. Joe's.
Okay.
He's one of my first guys. Cross Howarth is actually at Tulane now. And then we started building from there. The goals early was to do a couple lessons, figure out the move, and hopefully get back down to Florida. But I made Philly my home, and definitely not going anywhere for a long time. I absolutely love it, man. It's a passion of mine for sure.
That's awesome. What's it mean to you that you've got all these kids that want to come work specifically with you?
Oh, it means a lot, man. In the beginning, I had a lot of fans. I mean, obviously, playing in the area, I knew that I was going to pick up business just from that aspect of it. I felt bad kind of changing the pricing. Once I changed the pricing and developed a system a little bit, I started to get the better kids. And that helped out tremendously, but it means a lot. I like to say that, I'm a coach by trade, connector by heart. I absolutely love what I do. I'm there, 6, 7 days sometimes. And my team of guys, Brendan, Jordan, Caleb, all you guys that's around, John DeBridger. I know I'm leaving out a lot of guys. But I thank you guys for all the support, all the things that you guys do for DB9 and the Philly Scout team, Nelly Gonzalez. I appreciate you guys.
So you sort of like stepped into it, and over time you realized, all right, this is something I could do. What do you think you've like learned about yourself though in teaching others about the game?
Right. The vulnerability piece is huge.
Okay.
I definitely was a guy, you see me, I was more quiet and reserved. Over time, I started to see that I was more selfish when it came to the media. But I always had this ability to connect with people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the biggest part why I'm here right now and not in the big leagues, is because I was so concerned on having the clubhouse right. Because my first couple of years, no matter what, Chase, Jimmy, Howard, Vic, those guys were making sure the clubhouse was right.
Sure.
That when they left out, that's all I wanted to do. So my focus was on that part.
I want to ask, like, you're still in the game, just in a different way, but what do you miss most about the daily grind of being a major leaguer?
The daily grind, I miss the camaraderie, number one, but number two, I just think that 2 to 11, I always say that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, some days were long, but, you get used to that. I mean, I was able to still play, 10 plus years of pro ball.
Sure.
But I would just say that daily grind of BP, dealing with you guys, like, I really do miss that stuff. You can smell.
You miss dealing with us?
Yeah, I do, man. Yeah. I from an accountability standpoint, with teaching, like, I use you guys a lot because the stuff that I learned in media training, man, helped out tremendously.
Sure.
And I use some of those things now, man, making sure that I know the guy's name, stuff like that, a lot of these kids are smarter than we were back in the day because of technology, but they don't compete like we did, you know? So, like, I found myself talking about a lot of those same things that, I got from media training and from a lot of the guys that were in the clubhouse daily.
Sure. It's refreshing to hear you say that, because a lot of ex-players, you know, they feel a certain way about the media. It's hard for them to
I had to look in the mirror, Pat. I had to look in the mirror. You guys never was a problem to me. I never was a player that read any of the stories either. Maybe that was why.
Maybe.
sometimes I watched The Last Dance and I heard Michael Jordan talking about him using the media into his advantage. Sure. I wish I would have did a little bit more of that. Honestly, just because I know that it would have made me more accountable, where when you're not reading those things, depending on the personality type, right? And we had a manager that was able to read those things, and Charlie.
The best.
But those are things that I think about now that would have worked for somebody's personality like myself. If I read more of the clippings, then now I'm going to be more accountable to go out, prepare more, work harder, which that is a different perspective. But depending on each guy, then Jimmy Rollins didn't need that. He didn't need anybody to tell him anything. And that's who I was around majority of the time, him and Howard. And I learned a lot. But for my personality type, I needed some pre-workout, and I could have used you guys more as fuel to get to that next step.
So now that you're a few years removed from all of that, when you look back at your career, how do you look at it?
Right. For me, like I said, everything's about a learning experience. I couldn't do what I'm doing if it wasn't that. I think I had a good career.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would have loved to got 10 All-Star games in 15 years. Of course, that was the goal, to be the best player, on this earth. But at the same time, being able to use those examples now, number one, I came back to Philly because I felt like I still had work to do. And I'm still, in the community, but I'm also at the games too.
Sure.
We got the baddest man on the planet batting third for us. So it's hard for me to miss that. And there's no ego that's involved when it comes to that either. Like, I love watching all of the guys. I love the game. But I had to look myself in the mirror first and figure out why things went south. And the more I think about it, was just, like I said, I needed some more pre-workout, man. I needed to use more things to kind of fire me up.
Yeah, sure.
Charlie did that naturally, and Sam Burt was great too. Had him in AAA. But Charlie was able to get me motivated and prepared, and he would tell me some of these things. The first couple of years, I just kind of ignored them along the way. But I learned those things after, after I left, which was very, very good for me.
Do you think, or how much do you think, being the number one overall prospect in baseball America named you that,
right?
How much do you think, did that hurt you? Did that help you? How do you think that shifted the expectations to you?
Like I said, I really wasn't worried about that.
Yeah, you didn't think about that then?
That was the same stuff of me having 60 offers in football by junior year.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been that guy.
Sure.
Like I said, I wish that I would have looked more into that with my personality instead of saying, "Oh, this is just what's supposed to happen."
Right.
20th round happened. I became the number one overall prospect because of the 20th round. You understand what I'm saying? So I know that I could use those bad things to trickle into something good. I only became the number one prospect because I was using that as motivation and fuel, to prepare myself on a daily basis. And then, 2 years, it was like I was a top 10 prospect. And then, after that, I was a number one prospect for a couple of years. So I wish I would have looked more deeply into those things now with seeing my whole story.
Yeah.
But I know I had a chip up my shoulder or up my butt, when it came to the 20th round. And I used that into my advantage. And I wish I would have did a lot more of that throughout my career.
How about 2013? 2013 was an amazing ride.
Right, I appreciate it.
All-Star. What do you remember about like all the great times that came along?
I use the great times too, man.
Yeah.
I really do. I use the great times too. Every now and then I'm looking at the iPad and looking at some old swings.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm a little tired and I need a little pick me up.
That's your pre-workout.
I'm always teaching, so I got to find somebody to pick me up. 2013 was great, but even for me, honestly, at that year, I wish I would hit 300 with. Obviously, that's just the way that us pro guys think.
Sure.
But I had a great month of May, like I did what I needed to do. But again, I was doing that stuff in the minor league, so you think that you're going to do that for another 10 plus years. You know what I mean? That's how I looked at it. Having Chase and Jimmy and those guys were.
Yeah, what was that like being around those guys every day?
You're always chasing those guys.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you. Like I needed that when it was time for me to. All right, this is your team.
Sure.
Guys are getting a little older and guys are leaving out. I'm looking around and they're not there anymore. Where all I had to do was look to my left, and Ryan Howard was over there before the game with the pencil. And then I look at the iPad, and he's watching, 400 home runs or however many home runs he has.
A lot of them.
Right?
Yeah.
And that motivates you. And then you look at Jimmy over here, and he don't need anything.
Nope.
He don't need no pre-workout. He don't need no music. He's just going to go out 7 o'clock and play his game. And then you would look at Ut with his routine and things that he did. And like I said, I took a lot of great things from those guys. All of us are still pretty close. But at the same time, when it was time for me to do my thing, I was still looking around instead of really focusing on what I needed to do to take care of my business. You get on the airplane, they tell you to put your life vest on first. I wasn't doing that. I was worried about everybody else. And then a couple injuries happened.
Sure.
And then now all of a sudden you get sent down, and those things were better for me, honestly.
So you got a chance to play with all those guys you just mentioned, Utley, Rollins, Howard, some of the best in franchise history.
Yes, sir.
Now we have a team this year. How often are you watching, over these last couple of years, which is like another good few seasons here of Phillies baseball? We've been waiting for something like this since that group.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And that's something that I tell the kids also. But these teams have been phenomenal, man. Like, it's been great to see how Bryce's came in. The culture here is totally different now.
Sure.
It's feeling like how, those teams were back in the day with us. But I'm watching the games often. Spring training, not as much. Sometimes during the season, not as much as I want just because of my schedule.
Busy man.
But at the same time, I'm always looking at that guy that's batting third for us. But I'll be there the 3rd and the 6th.
Okay.
And I'll be there throughout the season. So if you guys see me, come and say hello.
You're always in the same spot? You have a place you like to go?
It all depends. I don't want to say that on the air. But
coming after you.
Yeah, nah.
What do you love about this group, this team? Because everyone just seems so even keeled.
Right. I love the energy, man. I always feel like that we, the fighting fields we used to say back in the day. I always feel like that we got a fighting chance to come back and do something special. Like, I feel like that no matter what the team puts up run wise, I feel like that our team can come back at every single moment. I feel like we can play a little bit of small ball at times, but other than that, man, I think that we're on. I'm expecting Trey Turner to have a big year this year, bounce back year. But at the same time, like, you can't count us up when it comes to runs for sure.
How high do you think the expectations should be with a roster that looks like this?
I mean, they should win 80+ games with no problem. So, I don't like to say that stuff on the air. I'm still pretty close with a couple of the guys, but I think we're gonna have a big year for sure.
What is it like when you watch certain guys? So, like, you had Jimmy and you had Chase. When you look at a guy like Kyle Schwarber, for instance,
yes,
I know you're not in the clubhouse with him now, but when you see him and you see the way he speaks with the media and the way he is around the guys in the clubhouse, like, how important is it to have a couple of those guys in the clubhouse?
It's very important. I mean, like I said earlier, that was everything for me. I wanted to be that guy. I think that I was, at times. But Schwarber, man, he's a pro.
Yeah.
I think that we do have a couple of those guys. I think Alex Bloom is going to be, one of those guys eventually, watching these guys coming up. But Kyle Schwarber, ultimate pro. Yep. Those are the guys that, and when it's grind time and, you need a guy, that guy's picking up the whole team, the whole clubhouse. And that's everything when it comes to 162.
Bryce Harper has been doing it for a long time, and he just seems like every year he just keeps doing it.
Right.
And that's really hard to do in Major League Baseball. What is it about his game? What is it about his mentality that you think has allowed him to have the longevity that he's had?
That's a great question. I think that it started from youth.
Okay.
Now with me training kids, I can go to that aspect of it. When you hear the stories about him and his dad, having him use, small balls, heavy bats, all these different tools, especially with me being in the clubhouse or being able to teach kids now in the academy, I see how valuable and important that is. I hear the stories about, him hitting softer balls or something just so that he can get good ball flight. And that gives you big time confidence And ever since I've known Bryce at 17, 18 years old, he's always had that. So, it's not I knew this was coming, just put it like that. I seen him in AAA also. It just seemed like he's very consistent across the board. And I like to say when you do one thing in one area, you probably do them in all. When it comes to the nutrition, all the different things, the mental game, he has it, man. I see him in the off season, working on Gatorade drinks, healthier Gatorade drinks and things of that nature. Those are things that, makes you consistent. Those are the same things that I've seen, from a Chase Utley, where I know how big your upbringing and your story as a youth comes into it. I mean, I'm 6'5", 245 pounds. I'm in the gym. I love the gym, but I've been in the gym since I was 15 or 16 years old, so it's not a chore for me. So you can see a lot of these things that Bryce is doing. It's been a long time of being very, very consistent, and a lot of people don't get that. So for your fans, it ain't just an overnight process for Bryce, man. He's the man, but that started very, very young, and his dad definitely was all about the discipline, but all about picking him up and bringing him down and giving him that balance, and that's what we see.
You also were a teammate of some really great pitchers in your time here. This rotation looks amazing. Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, looks like he could take a leap. You got Ranger, Luzardo is the new guy. Specifically talking about, the top guys, Nola, Wheeler. When you watch them pitch, I mean, it's like a simple question. What makes them so good? But when you watch, like, what are they doing that does put them at the top of the league?
Right. Studying, man.
Studying.
You see those guys, I've been around Aaron Nola's first year. Those guys are studying. Obviously, they have the stuff and they have the work ethic and the drive, but I bet those guys are putting in countless hours on the other team, the advanced scouting reports, all those different things, how these guys are hiding the balls, all this stuff. But I bet those guys are putting in the work off the field. I like to talk about the things that these guys aren't, or the fans aren't seeing, with those players. But those guys are putting in the work that you need to be very, very good on a consistent basis. And I've seen the same thing with Doc, and those guys sometimes getting to the field at noon, and getting their body worked on, like we said, with the nutrition and all that stuff. But those guys are probably putting in so much work that we don't get to see on a daily basis. Everybody say every third or fourth day, but those guys are putting in work, every single day in and day out. And
these guys have a special work ethic, man.
Yeah, man. Those guys see stuff, man. I would see with Doc and, Hamels, they looking at the guys on deck. Cliff Lee, he's looking at the same stuff, man. I'm going to carve this guy up on deck. And I'm looking like, what are you seeing right now? And those guys helped me become a better hitter as well, because they would see certain things and they're like, Cliff's like, bro, you're getting two seamers in on the hands all day. Like, you're not getting a hit off of me. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And the more I thought about it, I'm like, that's how you get me out. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So I know these guys are doing the same things. I see them on the bench. And they're back at that top step. For a couple of years, I was watching games, and some of the guys that we had in a few years ago, they wasn't at that top step as much. Our starters was always at that top step. Yeah. Watching the game and watching the other team on tendencies and all those things. I'm starting to see those guys back at the top step, which is a good sign for us.
Because they're a little bit older. They've been through it. They were back a little bit in the beginning, and now they're at the front.
I see everybody at the top step watching the games now, man, and that's what it's all about. Man, when I see that pitching staff doing that on either team, that's something that, a little inside thing that we used to look at. If the pitcher's watching the game on a consistent basis, then you got to watch out.
Show's called a Gallen of Questions. So this is a gallon can that has a bunch of questions in them. We pull them out, try to answer them to the best of our ability. It could be anything. You want to give it a shot? You want to pull a piece out and see what we have? Okay. Just pull one out of there. Open her up. See what the question is. There you go.
Best thing Charlie Manuel ever taught me. Man. He definitely taught me the grind, I would have to say. Yeah. He taught me what playing 162 was all about on a consistent basis. Taught me how to be a man. I mean, I got so many different things when it comes to Charlie, because he definitely was a big mentor of mine. Sure. I actually seen him in the airport a couple years ago, and we sat down and almost missed the flight talking to him. So I don't know. I get touched up when it comes to Charlie. Chuck, hope all is well, man. I appreciate you helping me along the way. But I don't know, man. I would definitely say becoming a better man.
Yeah.
If I had to say one thing, it would definitely be that for sure.
Chuck is just the absolute best.
Yes,
Love
he
that guy. Do you have a favorite game, hit, or moment in the majors that you remember?
Game, hit, or moment? Probably Jimmy breaking Mike Smith's hit record.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Man, time flies. That feels like yesterday. I remember watching that.
I know, man. That was awesome.
Who was your favorite baseball player growing up?
Ken Griffey Jr.
Same. The kid. Craziest or funniest teammate you ever had?
Papelbon or Victorino.
Papelbon.
Yeah,
Papelbon.
Pap was the man.
Papelbon was a craziest.
I love Pap, though.
Most difficult pitcher you ever faced?
Steven Strasburg.
God, in his prime, too, man. He had some
stuff. Man. Some of these guys you see in the minor leagues, and you either got them or you don't. That was a guy that I've always struggled with. It didn't matter who I was facing in that lineup. I would, Gio or whoever else, I didn't want to see Strasburg.
Last one. Favorite athlete to watch in any sport right now? Who you fan of?
Sport?
Any sport. Could be baseball, but any sport.
Who
you love to watch?
Saquon Barkley.
That is a fantastic answer.
Yeah.
What a season he had. That was amazing. Domonic, we're done, man. That was it. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
It was so great to see you, man.
Yes, sir.
Take care.